So I want you to imagine this scenario for me. So imagine you're in the shower, you're about to get ready for bed, and you've just come back from this party. And you're trying to just switch off for the evening, but you can't stop thinking about this one awkward moment from the party where you were talking to this girl, seemed to be going well at the start, but then midway through the conversation, your brain just freezes. The words just aren't coming to you, and things become incredibly awkward. She ends up leaving because she just thinks you're some boring guy. But the most torturous thing about this is what's going through your mind right now. You've somehow managed to think of the perfect line which would have worked on her, which would have made her think you're some super confident, funny, likable person. Like, you know for a fact she would have found this funny. But it's 2 hours later. It's too late to use this line. And you're thinking, why is it that I've come up with the best possible line, like the perfect line, after it's too late? So this kind of thing used to happen to me a lot, like not only in the context of, like talking to people I'm trying to impress or people I like, but also in like arguments and stuff. I think it's a pretty common thing where we only think of like the perfect comeback, like when it's far too late to actually use it, and we really regret like what we actually did end up saying. And I remember thinking that, maybe the problem is like a lack of preparedness. Like, I need to memorize some stories that I could use in conversation, or I should have like a bunch of like cool sounding lines saved up in my head that I can use anytime. I also remember thinking that maybe I'm just socially awkward. Like, maybe I'm just not very skilled at the art of conversation and I'm just an awkward person. But I want to tell you today that that's not the case. We're going to explain why. It always seems like we only think of the perfect thing like 2 hours after the conversation's actually ended. Why you so commonly find yourself in this predicament and what the true cause is. So first of all, let's clear up this misconception that you have that you're probably not as socially skilled or witty as other people. Because I think that just the fact that you were able to think of something that would have worked in this conversation, something that you're proud of in the first place, shows that you have like some kind of ability, some kind of wit or like humor about you. Because sure, maybe it was too late to use, but you possess this ability. It's more down to the fact that in this context, around someone who you were trying to impress, or maybe you were in an argument, you just weren't able to access it. So it's not that you don't have it, you just haven't been able to access it when you want to, but it is there. A lot of what this comes down to is the feeling of safety. So I've talked about this topic quite a lot in my past videos, but when we feel like we're not in a safe environment or around people who we trust, or maybe we're not too familiar with the people around us, there's always going to be some kind of risk or like perceived level of danger. Even if there's nothing there, we often have it in the back of our mind that something could go wrong here. I'm trying to impress this girl, but there's always a possibility that she could reject me. I could get embarrassed in front of a bunch of people. I'm going to end up looking bad. And that represents some form of danger. Even if it's only something we have like maybe like 10 or 20% in the back of our mind, there's always going to be that fear there, that uncertainty. The thing is, if this danger feels like too much, if it's too strong, our body is going to react by putting us in this like fight or flight mode, which is essentially telling us we either need to fight or we need to get the hell out of this situation. And you're on guard. And imagine if you were being hunted by a wild animal, a lion, a saber-toothed tiger, what do you think is going to be the priority? Maybe a better way to phrase this is imagine you're like talking to a girl, talking to someone you're trying to impress, but in the background there's this wild animal on the loose, and you know there's like a possibility that it gets you from behind. Are you really going to be able to relax? Are you going to be able to like express yourself in the way you want to? Or are you going to be constantly aware of that danger? When the fight or flight takes over, it is very, very normal to not be able to think about how you're coming across, to access your memory, stories, let's just call it your creativity for conversation. It's very, very, very difficult to be able to access that, and that's a biological thing. That's correct. That's your body working as intended to protect you, because your survival is the number one thing. Sure, you're not in any physical danger, but in the modern world, we've evolved to feel this way, this sense of danger over like emotional threats almost. So the problem isn't you lack this ability to talk to people or use wit. It's often this sense of danger blocking off your creativity, giving you those like brain freezes, stopping you from accessing the stories. So even if you were to rehearse things, you wouldn't be able to access them because your your mind only has so much bandwidth. And once fight or flight takes over, the other stuff gets pushed to the side to the point where you can't access it. So it's not a question of you lack the ability to do it. It's kind of a state, the state of survival, let's call it. So I just want to like really hammer home this point to you, that it is more to do with like this feeling of safety. So another thing I would say on this is around your closest friends. Like imagine your closest friends, your most trusted family members who you feel like you could say anything to, who you feel completely safe. There's no negative repercussions. Have you ever once had like that like brain freeze around them, where you were lost for words, where no matter how hard you tried, you couldn't think of what to say next? Did you ever make a mistake and think it was the end of the world, or have like a truly awkward moment around then? I can't answer that question for you, but I can say for me, I've never had that. Because when I make a mistake around my friends, I don't think I'm going to get made fun of, and I don't feel that danger. I feel relaxed. I feel like I can be myself. And who I truly am is like a loud and expressive person. Not everyone gets to see that side of me, but it comes out when I'm feeling safe. And I do just think of like, not to like gas myself up a bit, but I do think of things that are like, after I say them, I'm like, how the hell did I think of something so witty? Like what? I didn't know I had this in me. Like that was just off the dome. I just said something really funny. And I know that I naturally possess that ability, and most people do. But not everyone gets to see that side of me. So you do naturally possess this ability. I've also got some studies in front of me that I looked up. So there's a study by this lady called Amy Arnsten, who is a neuroscientist studying stress. So there's a scientific basis to the idea that stress hormones do reduce activity in the prefrontal cortex, which is the part of our brain responsible for conversation. But specifically things like your memory. So imagine your ability to remember certain stories or jokes, your cognitive flexibility, which is more of the same thing, verbal fluency. So when you stutter or find yourself making a mistake, it's down to this stress, this survival response. Inhibition, which is, I believe that's just your ability to kind of like go into things, approach people, or say things and not necessarily worry so much about the consequences. Are they going to like it? And creative problem solving. So that specifically is your wit. and your humor, your ability to kind of flow a little bit. All of this is inhibited by that survival response. All of those abilities all of those things that kind of impact your ability to think of funny remarks or engage in charismatic conversation, under threat, your brain prioritizes survival over social creativity. So this is an idea backed by science. And I suppose the final thing, which is more drawing on my own experiences and my own frustrations in the past, I used to feel like pretty socially awkward at school and in my day-to-day life, but it almost felt like I became a different person at the party, specifically because I was under the influence of alcohol. I immediately became someone who felt comfortable going up to anyone and starting conversation. And I was I'd say things and I'd be very surprised, like, how did I just think of that on the spot? Like, surely like in my day-to-day life, I couldn't think of something that funny. Like it must be the alcohol, but is it the alcohol that suddenly creates this ability to just come up with like funny and witty things to say, like from thin air? It's not the alcohol that gives you that, because you have it already. The alcohol affects your inhibition, your filter. Your filter becomes lower. Our kind of willingness to take social risks. Sometimes we do say things that maybe we might be like a little bit on the edge, but that's kind of a gamble. That's kind of a gamble we might not take in our regular life. But oftentimes for me, that gamble pays off, because that's where some of my best jokes come from. So yeah, it's not to do with anything to do with you, like you're an inherently awkward person. It's simply the fact that when your brain freezes, you're going into like a survival mode. You're not able to think so freely of like things to say. But when you're out of that mode, when you've calmed down, it's no surprise that the perfect thing, something which would have worked, comes into your head. If you want to learn more about how to kind of take yourself out of survival mode and kind of restore that sense of safety, which will then allow you to kind of be more funny and creative and witty in social situations, then I am offering free coaching at the moment. Completely free of charge. Just happy to hear any social problem that you're experiencing, and draw from my own experiences and the expertise that I have on this problem. So book a call with me through the link in my description, and I'll see you in the next one.